Welcome back, Alpha Hunters. Hope you guys are doing well. The markets are closed for the week of November 18th, and we need to figure out what is going on because at the end of last week, we saw a lot of bullishness. This week, not so much. So let's try to figure out what's kind of going on here, okay? But to start things off, I'm gonna quick talk about this CBOE update. So a couple months back, the CBOE updated the futures market for the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq to have options that expired every day of the week. So that now would include Tuesday and Thursday, but they hadn't got to the SPY and Qs yet. Now they are going to be doing that with these SPY and Qs that actually went into effect this week that just ended. But essentially, what's going to happen is we will now have options that expire every day of the week going out for 2 weeks. Okay. They also said in this note that they will be removing Monday and Wednesday options that go out for 5 weeks. So those will be going away. And basically, what we're going to have is we're going to have Friday expirations going out for 6 weeks. And then for 2 weeks, as we come to a Tuesday, go 2 weeks out, that Tuesday's options will then start trading as well. So then when you go into Wednesday, the options on Wednesday 2 weeks out will then start trading. So it's basically going to be rolling every 2 weeks out. We'll be adding another day. So this is really fantastic. I really wanted to hear this. I've been really looking forward to hearing about this for years, as basically it just gives us a great opportunity to bring in cash selling options. So this is fantastic news, for those that sell options on the daily. But let's get back into looking at the markets for the week, the SPY. Okay, so last week I got the market outlook video out on Thursday because I was gone on Friday. But what's interesting is the expected choppiness that we kind of got coming in this week. Now, last week I kind of expected us to continue higher. Friday, have a little bit of a pullback, probably push a little bit higher this week, which kind of did on Tuesday. And then basically it was just choppy after that. So we're going to look at kind of what went on during the week this week. And what we can see is Monday had a nice little gap down, just kind of traded higher, and then towards the end of the day really sold off. This was kind of a key sign that said, hey, the market is exhausted and does not really want to go through this 400 level, because that was basically the level the SPY kind of got into and rejected right off of it. What was interesting then, the Tuesday we come out, we open higher. We got some really good PPI data. Basically, obviously the PPI came in much lower, kind of like the CPI did the previous week. And the market opened up higher and kind of very slowly, methodically trickled down for the first half of the day and then flushed off pretty good, and then got bought up kind of towards the end of the day. But really the market was having a hard time maintaining anything above this 400 level. Even Tuesday, which should have been a pretty solid continue higher, because we got above a lot of the selling that came in late Monday, and we gapping above that on Tuesday. We didn't really continue to maintain that higher push. So it was very interesting to kind of see the price action we got late Monday and then Tuesday. And then Wednesday just kind of chopped around a little bit, not much going on. And then Thursday, a pretty nice gap down. I don't really think this was on anything major news. It just, we just saw a nice little trade lower on the futures side of it before the market opened, and didn't break down, right? Because we basically opened right at the 390 level. So just kind of interesting. Saw a nice little double bottom down there in the first hour and a half or so. And then market responded kind of nicely, went on a little bit of a bullish run, rolled over, and then closed looking pretty bullish going into Friday. Friday, nice little gap up, trade lower, hung out for a little bit, and then traded higher to kind of end out the day. So that is kind of how the week went. It was really interesting to see. 400 was definitely respected. Okay, understand that. 400 was respected. So what does that mean about going into next week? Well, last week I kind of mentioned, I expect the market to kind of fall asleep here. And if you've been in the live stream, I do expect the market to fall asleep next week. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to move at all, but typically on Thanksgiving week, we don't really do much. Like, the market just eats too much turkey, not too much goes on. The volume is going to be kind of light, and I would expect not a lot of movement, because the people that provide movement in the market, they're not going to be doing a whole lot. They're going to go on holiday. Probably a little choppy next week, and I would imagine we probably push higher. If we do push higher and take out Tuesday's high, November the 15th, I would expect that's where there is a lot of bots and a lot of orders to sell. Okay. I do not expect us to get over Tuesday and hold it. All right. So watch out for that. Watch if we just kind of slowly chop higher. And then maybe Wednesday we get up to like 400, 401. And then Friday we kind of come in, snag above it, and come right back down on some pretty good volume on Friday. Friday will also be a half day. Thursday, market won't be trading because the U.S. will be on Thanksgiving. So don't expect the market to be open. I will also not be on the live stream on Friday. I'll be on the live stream on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So if you do want to stop by, bring some pumpkin pie. Feel free to stop by and tell me what you're planning on doing over the Thanksgiving weekend. But if anything kind of happens next week, I would expect a little bit more bullishness. And then I would expect on Monday, November 28th, as the market comes back from the Thanksgiving weekend, that we start to see some selling come in. As that'll be wrapping up November. So I would expect to see some selling at the end of November, right after Thanksgiving, and to start December. But that is just kind of what I'm expecting. Kind of from what I've noticed in the years past is, whatever the market kind of does on Thanksgiving week, the market typically does the opposite of that after Thanksgiving. So even if we do go bearish maybe a little bit over Thanksgiving week, I'd expect the market to kind of come in and push it up higher. Probably try to even come take out this high. Try to get a lot of people to come into the market while they then sell it off later in December. I do not think that we're going to be much higher than what Tuesday's high is at any point throughout the rest of November and December. If we do wick above it, we probably wick above it. It probably doesn't stay. But I'm really thinking we're probably just going to get one strong move in the bearish direction. And then even in December, it's probably just going to go mostly flat until the end of the year. And then we'll probably start to see some more selling come in January after the new year. What's really interesting is we're seeing some real issues here on the blue box. And last week, looking at the Qs, I did not think we were going to get to the blue box on the Qs, either last week or the week before, but the market just never ceases to amaze. Tuesday got right into it and sold right out of it. But, that's kind of how the market was for those 3-4 days after that inflation data. That last Thursday, November the 10th, and Friday definitely saw a lot of buying in the tech area. But tech over this week definitely got sold off after Tuesday. So I'd be a little bit cautious there. Apple was one that kind of held up decently well. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. But yeah, for the Qs, I would expect more weakness, probably just to hang out here. I wouldn't expect a whole lot of bullishness even to come in, because even on the right side over here, you see, oh wow, what did the best today? Utilities, the XLU. So it's just kind of interesting. Healthcare was also pretty solid today, and consumer staples were pretty good. So I would be a little cautious about getting exposure to anything kind of risky, and I would actually be looking to be a little bit more bearish on the market, or positioning bearish on the market. But that leads me to another point. I do expect the market to kind of fall asleep here for the next month and a half for the most part. I do expect like one good move probably after Thanksgiving as we go into December, but I'm not expecting a whole lot, okay? Typically, we don't see a lot of movement in the market in December, especially during bearish times. So I would expect probably just a lot of flatness. If we do get a bearish push late November, early December, probably expect the market to kind of fall asleep a little bit and just kind of go and cruise into the new year, the year end. And so right now is not really going to be a good time for swing traders to be kind of short on their expiration with their options. I would definitely be leaning going out to the end of Q1, probably going into Q2 with their options expiration dates, and not looking really too much at anything short term, unless you see a very clear level and you want to get in on the near term and then get out pretty soon thereafter. But I wouldn't be holding anything expecting like here comes the move. So just be mindful of that on the option side, especially on the market itself. We still might see some sectors move, definitely some stocks move. That's going to probably continue to happen, maybe across financials, industrials, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, just be kind of mindful about which options expiration you're picking out. So earlier today, I actually put out a trade idea, and it really revolved around AAPL, and a lot of the reasons why it had to do with AAP. I'm going to bring up a dual screen here, and I will compare the AAPL to the SPY. Oh, perfect. That's basically how I wanted to look at it. And what's real interesting here is you see at the end of October, AAPL made the high that it's had over like the previous 3-4 weeks. Okay, so that was the high that AAPL did put in, and it was basically at their earnings time. It was around their earnings time. And recently, the market, the Qs and the SPY have made higher highs compared to that late October little hump that it had. And so we have a little bit of a divergence here with AAPL and the general market, like the SPY and the Qs. This is also there on the Qs. So it's just kind of interesting to see that AAPL could possibly be right for that bearish push again. And when you kind of compare AAPL to some of the other, stocks that it's kind of compared to a lot, like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, Tesla, AAPL has been only down from its all-time high. So roughly this year, the year, most of these stocks have hit their all-time highs in the past year or about a year ago. AAPL is only down 18%. Microsoft's down 31%. Google's down 36%. Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Tesla are all down over 50%, or they got down over 50%. It's just one of those things that there's a lot of capital that is still sitting there in AAPL, and some of these other stocks, at least that I've listed out here, are starting to be real bargains going into the long term. And I don't really know how much of a bargain AAPL kind of is currently. And so it's just one of those things that I think AAPL might be really due for some major selling. And kind of like how we got in early November, where AAPL went from kind of the recent highs it did to the lows it had over the past 2 months. It did that in like 4 days. So I'd be really cautious on AAPL, especially trying to be long here. I know over the past 4 or 5 days, it actually held up pretty decently well compared to just the general market, some other comparables that I had listed out there and stuff like that. So just really kind of interesting to see how well AAPL has kind of held up. So just wanted to kind of call that out and say, I think right now might be a really good time to be primed to be bearish on some AAPL. So just kind of want to bring that up, but I'm not really digging too much bearish stuff on like Microsoft, Google, a lot of the other stuff, but AAPL definitely is sitting right for me to at least be bearish. And one thing we've been talking about in the live stream the past like couple of weeks is really watching AAPL, the SPY, and the Qs. Really, as Apple kind of goes, the market will go because it has the largest weighting. And we didn't really see a whole lot of activity on AAPL the second half of the day. It held up pretty good in the first half of the day, but the second half of the day, when the SPY was really running up and the Qs also were running up decently well, AAPL was not really. And even in that last 15 minutes where we saw some selling coming in, AAPL got hit pretty good. So I would just be watching AAPL. If we still really start breaking down there, it really might start taking the market with it, or vice versa. If the market starts to really kind of get down to some of them lows and break through some of these levels, like around 390 or whatever, AAPL, you might see a lot of people flood out of that because there's still a lot of capital sitting there. And if you're going to invest in something, why not take it out of AAPL, which doesn't really have a lot of upside going into the future. And a lot of these other companies are starting to have really good risk reward setups to the long side. So let's real quick just run through the dollar, kind of check out what's going on there. The dollar kind of just broke down late last week, right, with the CPI numbers that came out, and didn't really do much this week, and actually kind of looks a little bullish here. Set a nice little consolidation pattern. Nice little bullish activity kind of came in this week on Thursday and Friday. Some lower wicks that came in on Tuesday and Wednesday, but over the past 4 days, all making higher lows. So definitely kind of interesting to kind of see that going on. But we do have some moving averages up above it. It might take a little bit of time for the DXY to kind of break above some of these moving averages, but just watch out for pops. If you get pops and then the second half of the day or towards the end of the day, it kind of winds up coming back down and makes up a huge upper wick, yeah, that won't be good. But if it has a full body pop up, that'll be looking pretty good for the DXY to continue pushing in the bullish direction. Let's take a look at rates. Rates look pretty good. Nice little consolidation here. Doesn't look nearly as bad as the DXY, so this is looking pretty good to kind of continue back in the bullish direction. So just because CPI broke down last week doesn't mean all these are going to continue to roll over as far as the rates and the dollar and that kind of stuff. So keep an eye on some of these. The yields, the 10-year yields here at least looking pretty good. And the yield curve inversion between the 10 and the 2 still going and making more lows. And if you want to look at something that looks real interesting, go look at the US 5-year versus the US 2-year and look at how inverted that one is. That is crazy. Look at the all-time if you can. Just scroll out and look at the all-time of the 5 to 2, and it is crazy how inverted that thing is. Let's take a look at the GLD or gold. GLD kind of looking to come back here a little bit. I think it got a little too extended here. You don't have to be real cautious here. Wait for this thing to kind of really either settle out in here, form a nice little basing pattern, kind of like how I've drawn out here. But it's kind of one of those where it might have got too high, too quick without a retest, and might have enough momentum coming back down to break through this 160, 159 level. So watch out for that on the GLD and gold. But the HYG looking pretty good, actually. Nice little consolidation this week. Might continue to push higher, which would be interesting because, this has definitely been front running the stocks, and the stocks, I would say, don't really look like they're going to push higher. But we might see the HYG push higher and stocks not. But I would keep an eye on HYG if anything kind of going on here. Might give you a little bit of indication maybe what's going on with stocks. If stocks start to be sluggish and this thing's popping out to some recent highs, that maybe not be the most bullish thing for stocks, as this thing maybe just pops a high and then rolls back over and stocks are just underperforming that whole time. So yeah, just keep your eye on the HYG. If basically anything breaking out above some of these recent highs or down below this week or last Thursday's low, that would be kind of a bad thing for just about a lot of things in the marketplace. Taking a look at the VIX looking pretty rollover-ish. Not going to say it looks very good here. Nice little upper wicks that came in earlier this week. There was definitely some issues with that. I think Tuesday morning, I think there was a report about a Russian missile strike hitting Poland, but it wound up not being a Russian missile strike. So you saw the VIX kind of pop real quick on that, but it seems like all cooler heads have prevailed and not really an issue for now. But the VIX looking like it's probably going to come take out this low that it put in back on Friday, November 11th. If this breaks down and gets below that low, especially here over the sleepy Thanksgiving week of trading, and the S&P, the market, does not make a new high, I'd be real cautious on the market. So this is another thing to kind of look out for. If the VIX is breaking this low and the market is not making a new high, be real cautious, especially when we come out of the Thanksgiving weekend. But really, that's about all I got for this week. Definitely gonna be kind of a sleepy week next week. I do expect it to be kind of quiet. If it's a little bit bullish, it might be a little bit bullish. I don't expect a whole lot. But guys, next week, enjoy your week. I will get a market outlook out for next week just to make sure, hey, what price levels we kind of take out, what price levels we get under or over, or what moved during the week, because things are going to move. Still need to do our homework, all that kind of stuff, and be prepared for whatever kind of happens the week after Thanksgiving weekend, okay? So y'all have a great Thanksgiving week, and I will talk to y'all next week. Alpha Hunters, take care.